we've got a few more signings to dive into.
I mean, this offense continues to evolve as the season goes on.
Welcome into Bucs Insider, presented by Hard Rock Bet Sportsbook. Casey Phillips here with Scott Smith and Bree Dix. And I'm not going to lie, we don't have a ton of great news leading off this show. We're coming off a tough loss, but also 1 trillion, give or take, injuries. But I wanted to start with at least a little bit of good news before we get into all of that, and that is Emeka Egbuka getting the Offensive Rookie of the Week, which I really of the month, yes. Which I'm like, that's perfect, because as we've said, we felt like he should have been giving a bunch of week awards.
Yes.
So I'll take this one because it encapsulates all of the things that we had talked about. It's just unbelievable what he is doing from a yards, catches, touchdown perspective, and just so excited he's getting this kind of recognition, not just here, but across the league with an award like that. So we wanted to start with that good news.
Well, it's particularly impressive because he's a wide receiver, and this award tends to go to quarterbacks and running backs. In fact, he's the first Buccaneer wide receiver ever to win that award. We've had a number of them, 9 of them, but they've all been running backs or quarterbacks. And the last one before this was 10 years ago, Jameis Winston.
Wow.
And I think maybe November of his rookie year. So it's something we haven't had in a long time.
Yeah.
And as a receiver, we've never had it before.
And to have it the first month of the season, showing how quickly he has been ready and out of the
ground
gates.
running.
Very cool. So, all right, so we wanted to start with that little palate cleanser of good news before we get into injuries, which probably could be the whole show. We are not going to have it be that, but there are enough of them that if we really talked about every single one individually, it might take us the whole show.
Would you say this is the worst rash you've seen since
I
you've
think
been
so,
here?
yeah. I was going to ask you. I mean, you've obviously been here longer than me, but this is my 11th season.
Don't call me old.
I was waiting. I really enjoy getting to point that out. It's the other palate cleanser I have here. So this is my 11th season, and I cannot remember a single other week that I have looked at the team as a whole and thought we were more injured than we are right now. And not just quantity, but who it is across all these different positions. I mean, it's truly unbelievable. Do you feel like it's up there for you?
And I think, yes. And it's hard to remember all the years back. I do remember one time,
all those years.
few years
You did
back,
that to yourself.
when we had a whole bunch of, we had all our defensive linemen injured in a game going to Carolina, and we did win that game. But, the Buccaneers have done a good job through the first month of the season of overcoming these injuries, and we, of course, will remain confident that they will do so now. It's just, you see this list and you realize it's going to take quite an effort and quite a lot of people stepping up that really haven't been as actively involved in this before.
Yeah, so we thought an easy way to break it down for everybody to kind of see, in case you're trying to keep track of all these, we wanted to first highlight injured reserve.
Hide your eyes.
Hide your eyes. Make the children not look at this scene. So, this is our injured reserve list, and you added the little asterisk of will not return in 2025.
Yeah, because people can return from IR now after missing a minimum of 4 games, but the guys with asterisks have injuries that they will not be able to come back from this year, and that's 5 guys already. And I know maybe Bucs fans don't know J.J. Roberts and David Walker all that much because they're rookies, but they had big plans for those guys.
Yeah, they were going to be contributors.
Yeah,
for sure.
For sure. And obviously Cody Mauch is your starting, or was your starting right guard. Right. Kalijah Kensey's so important to that defensive front. And since O'Keefe got hurt, I think we've all been surprised by how many people are saying how important he was to the offense.
Right.
Like, it's changed Cade Otton's role,
Yes.
right? Because we don't have O'Keefe in that move him around in different ways to block role. So that's just the guys on IR. Now really hide your eyes for the next list you're going to show.
So now we're going to throw up the one that are what we're calling the Week 5 question marks. So Bree, tell us a little bit about just what this means of, again, we are shooting this prior to the Thursday injury report coming out, because playing Seattle, you don't get the injury report till so late because of the time change. So we will know a lot more, obviously, with the Thursday and especially the Friday injury reports. But what is this graphic telling us right now?
Well, I think the big names, especially on the back end of the secondary, is looking at Jamel Dean, looking at Christian Izien, looking at Benjamin Morrison, and what that could potentially mean for a guy like Jacob Parrish, who might have to step up more on the outside if they're unable to go. And then, of course, Bucky Irving, with that foot-shoulder injury, could be a bigger role for Sean Tucker, for Rachaad White on Sunday as well. And then kind of monitoring Hassan Reddick with that neck stinger and how he progresses throughout the week.
And she just said all of that and didn't note that our quarterback is on that list.
Yes,
Minor details.
He's
with 2 different things.
Right. He already had the biceps injury that he played through last week. Now he has the knee injury. I think we all know Baker well enough to know that
Yes.
he's probably going to find a way to fight through it. But you don't want your quarterback, especially a guy that likes to take off and run in crucial situations,
Right.
to be struggling with both of those injuries. So, and if you could put that list back up again real quick, please. On Wednesday, the Buccaneers had a walkthrough specifically because so
they
many
didn't-
guys were hurt.
Yeah, because
Well,
look
and
at
the
just
fact
the
that
numbers of that.
Todd Bowles said basically we've had more guys that couldn't practice than actually could practice is pretty.
It was a bit of an exaggeration, but it was still pretty dang
Yes. I mean,
I mean,
ominous.
that's 11 names.
So
that's an entire
Yeah.
Unit on the field of 11 people if you think of it like
Yeah,
that.
so you have to, when you do an injury report after a walkthrough, you do an estimate of would they have practiced had it been full speed. And I can tell you that yesterday's injury report, on that list, Jamel Dean, Mike Evans, Greg Gaines, Logan Hall, Bucky Irving, Christian Izien, Baker Mayfield, Benjamin Morrison, and Tyke Smith were all listed as did not participate.
Yeah.
Man, this is going to be fascinating. What a test for our coaches. I know we've watched over the years, whether it be one position group or a few, Todd Bowles have to really play some chess to figure that out. And of course, especially seeing guys like Izien and Tyke on there, they're your most versatile
Yep.
Plug and
for
play,
trying
yeah.
to solve all those different problems. So he's going to have to play some chess. And then, man, I'm just thinking about Grizzard. Of what a way to start your tenure here of so many injuries at such important positions. That and like all the last minute drives trying to win games and this. I'm like, he is getting quite the experience under his belt very quickly in a lot of different ways. So that is kind of the injury situation because, of course, we wanted to really get into that knowing what a huge storyline that's going to be going into a very long West Coast trip. And the Seahawks actually got a little bit of extra rest coming in, so definitely a big storyline here. And then we briefly want to start getting into the recap of the Eagles game. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in our next segment. We'll be right back here on Bucs Insider. Welcome back into Bucs Insider. Casey Phillips, Scott Smith, and Bree Dix here. We wanted to get back into that Eagles game, a little bit of recap. Starting on the offensive side, to me, I thought it was so great to see, both Chris Godwin and Tristan Wirfs come back just from even a morale standpoint for the team. But Tristan coming back had such a domino effect on that offensive line. It was really great to see that at least you have one side of your line that is back to what it was originally planned to be. By Tristan coming back, Graham gets to go back to his spot, Ben gets to go back to his spot. Now, what's interesting is you're like, oh, they're back to their original positions, but now they've been at these others for a couple weeks. So I don't think that it was going to be a game where we necessarily expected that whole side of the line to look at their peak of, is Tristan knocking off Russ? Those guys are having to go back. I think it was really encouraging to see how well just Tristan coming back and that domino effect affected things because you have a season-high 376 yards of offense against a very good defense and defensive front. And we saw that Baker had time to deliver a few deep balls, and so I think it was a really great sign. You had over 100 rushing yards. Now, some of those were Baker scrambling a little bit, but when you look at those stats, I think you have to be really encouraged about what this offensive line was able to be in this slightly updated version of it. And again, we will never be at the one we plan on having because of Cody being out all season, Luke being out for a while, but at least to get one side of the line back to its original, I think was a very big deal. And I know you alluded to one important part of the offense earlier was the idea of no O'Keefe and the way that affected Cade Otton. Cade has been affected by a lot of things, the O-line stuff and and it's kind of affected the role he's had.
Well, and he may not have had the flashiest season so far, but I don't think you can say enough about just the job that he's done in protection and what he's kind of is an extension of that offensive line. He's only had 6 receptions for 34 yards. But even on the Bucs' first gain, or their only gain on that first offensive possession, the 15-yard gain for Bucky Irving, he pulled on the counter, or even against the Texans, he blocked Danielle Hunter one-on-one to open up Bucky Irving's touchdown. So just he's stout at the point of attack against DNs, against linebackers, but also just his ability and his understanding of how to cut off angles to seal the run lanes, but also just, the chips and release and all the things they're asking him to do. He's really made a big impact in helping the offense still operate at the way that it needs to go.
Could you imagine Cade complaining about not
Anything?
getting passes?
Anything? Nope.
Saying, get me the ball
Oh, you
more.
want me to block this in one-on-one? Great, I'm
Cade
there.
has never complained about anything in his life.
Ultimate team player, ultimate.
100%. And then I know we obviously have to talk about special teams, which
Big story.
The good, the bad, the ugly,
Yeah.
and all. It had everything.
Yeah, it looked like a disaster in some ways. Obviously, the block punt on the first possession, return for a touchdown. That's the 3rd game in a row with a block kick, which, I mean, you see you see Todd Bowles answering questions about it after the game and on Monday, and I mean, it looks like he's talking through gritted teeth. Like he is not happy about this situation. So they said they're gonna look into every avenue to improving special teams, but there are some areas of special teams that are doing really well. I mean, after a little bit of struggles, which is really just a couple missed field goals in the first 2 weeks, Chase McLaughlin has been a difference maker the last two games, and in this one, we were all amazed he hit a 65-yarder. This is history, franchise history.
Unbelievable.
Our previous
Longest
record was
outdoor.
62. Yeah, and as Bree's pointing out, it's 1 yard short of the record, 66 by Justin Tucker, but that was in a dome.
Yep.
And Brandon Aubrey of Dallas had a 65-yarder in a closed stadium in Dallas last year. So that's the longest kick made in an outdoor game in NFL history. Now, if it had been a game winner at the end of the game rather than just at the end of halftime to make it 24-6, I think you'd be looking at like the most amazing field goal in league history.
Yeah, and to see him on the other side of the half of the logo.
It's weird.
It's just weird. I'm like, that's the direction? Are we sure? Oh, that was amazing.
And then he made a 58-yarder. So first, he's got 2 of the 6 longest field goals in team history now.
Yeah.
And they got him in one afternoon. And then Cameron Johnson, 6 returns on punts for 100 yards, a 46-yarder, a 27-yarder. Both of them ended up in Eagles territory. We actually didn't score on either of those drives, but his 15.9-yard average is the highest in the NFL among all players with at least 10 returns.
Yeah, and it's pretty incredible. So then on the defensive side of things, I know that it was amazing to see just first to second half of the increase in execution. Coach is always hesitant to really call things adjustments, that a lot of times it's just working on the execution, but man, they suddenly went from allowing a fair amount in the first half to only 33 yards allowed, not counting that intentional safety. No completions allowed. They punted on 6 of their 7 final possessions. And it's crazy just looking at some of the stats. If you just looked at the box score, you see that you held Saquon to 43 yards rushing, A.J. Brown to 7 yards, and Devontae Smith to 29. I think you think you're winning that game.
Yeah.
So those are some pretty great defensive stats as well. So, and some of those came from Vita Vea. This was quite a Vita game.
He had 2 sacks against the Eagles, and he now has 32.5 in his career, and 1 more puts him in Bucs top 10 all time, which is absolutely
He's a
insane
nose tackle.
for a nose tackle. But I mean, there were times in that game he was being triple teamed, was still able to get pushed, just absolutely overwhelms at the point of attack, and just what he's been able to do through the interior for this season. Lethal club rip. So I think it was just exciting to see him doing Vita Vea things.
And of course, he's part of an incredible run defense.
Yeah, and the Bucs are 6th in that category. They've been ranked in the top 10 most of the years that Todd Bowles has been here. What they've done is really take out the other team's opposing top running back, at least in terms of running. Bijan Robinson for Atlanta had 12 carries for 24 yards. Nick Chubbs of Houston had 12 for 43. Breece Hall of the Jets, 9 for 21. And even Saquon Barkley, 19 for 43. So the run defense is strong.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we are going to get into previewing that Seattle game when we come back. Welcome back into Bucs Insider. Time for us to look ahead to that Seahawks matchup. So, Bree, what are you going to be watching on this end of things?
A lot of things I think is interesting is Clint Kubiak's system. So they use a lot of multiple tight end sets, and kind of going off of some of Scott's tremendous stats. But they have 2 or more tight ends on the field for 41.2% of their plays, and they've had their best yards per play and best success rate out of that 12 grouping, which is 1 running back, 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends. And they utilize tight ends a lot on the perimeter for kind of the outside zone runs, getting guys. But also just they stretch things horizontally. You also have the run action that looks kind of like the passing concepts, and a lot of the things that they do that have benefited Sam Darnold and benefited that system. So for the Bucs, it's going to be staying disciplined, setting the edge well, but also free-flowing and getting guys to not be able to get those chunk yardage plays down the perimeter.
The Seahawks have gone under a lot of change this last year, from personnel to coaching, and I think a lot of people were wondering what it was going to look like. And I think especially offensively on a few of these weapons, people had questions, and they're looking pretty incredible to start off the season. And Jackson Smith-Njigba in particular has become a huge fixture of their offense. 402 yards, are second in the NFL behind just Puka Nacua. 65 yards better than the next person on that list. Top 10 in yards per reception at 15.5. He and Puka Nacua are the only 2 players to have at least 75 receiving yards in each of their first 4 games.
Wow.
Clearly, the Sam Darnold, Jackson Smith-Njigba connection is very strong. And when we just highlighted that every dang playing defensive back is hurt for us, it feels like. This is definitely, to me, a matchup to look for, and I don't even know what to call the matchup. I don't know who.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that Zion McCollum is going to be, tasked with that.
Who has a thumb injury, by the way.
Yep. Also, and that's why I'm like, I don't know what this is going to look like, but it'll be interesting to see there. So, Scott, how about you? What are the things you're looking at for this game?
Well, you were talking about the new offensive coordinator. The head coach, Mike McDonald, is just in his second season, and he came over from the Ravens and brought that system with him. And they showed market improvement last year, but this year they are really doing a great job. They're second in the league in points allowed at 16.8, and they already have 12 sacks and 7 interceptions. And they do a really good job under McDonald of tailoring their approach game by game to the opposing team offense.
Yep, this is going to be a really fascinating matchup, I think. And again, anytime you got to fly, it's about as far as there can be a trip in the NFL that isn't an international game. Only if we were at Miami would it be a longer flight. And so I think this is going to be a fascinating one and a lot of changes with this team. So plenty of storylines to keep an eye on. We are going to have one more segment when we come back right here on Bucs Insider. Welcome back into Bucs Insider. Casey Phillips here with Scott Smith and Bree Dix. So we figured with some injuries that fantasy advice might be handy for any of the people out there who are either currently holding Bucs players or considering picking up Bucs players. Yep. What would you say is the fantasy advice for the person out there wondering what they should do?
Well, we don't know yet for sure on the status of Bucky Irving, but as head coach Todd Bowles said, if he's still in a boot on Friday, he'd have a pretty hard time seeing him play on Sunday. So let's just do this from the perspective of Bucky not being available. Don't forget about Rachaad White now. I know he hasn't really been playable so far in fantasy-based football, but if you have him on your roster, you got him for this situation, to stash him and if any games Bucky wasn't available, because Rachaad White in 2023, the last year before Bucky arrived, was the 7th leading running back in terms of scoring in fantasy football. And that's because he had such a huge share. He was getting all the carries and all the receptions. Now, I don't think it's a slam dunk. I don't want to get blamed for somebody putting Rachaad White in and not getting a slam dunk because Sean Tucker is there, and we've seen what he can do when he gets an opportunity. And I would suspect that this is still going to be a timeshare. And since Rachaad White is by far your most trusted back on third downs and 2-minute situations, they got to find other times to put Sean Tucker in, and that could be first and second down on some of these drives. So I would play Rachaad White probably if I had him this week, but please don't get overexcited about it.
And if Baker is hurt, especially both knee and arm related, either handing it off or getting that ball out quick
is a good idea.
Is a good idea. Yeah. And Rachaad could be both of those
great
things.
Pass catcher. He's a great pass catcher.
And also, this probably is a take that means nothing, but I remember, I think Rashaad's best game as a Buccaneer was against Seattle.
In Munich.
Yep, in Munich. Yeah. Now, again, clearly, many things are different in this matchup. We're not in Munich. A lot of people are different on both sides of the ball, but I'm like, hey, I like that idea.
Isn't that the game we won with the angry run?
Yep.
Stiff arm.
So maybe we can get another stiff arm in here. All right, we wanted to highlight something in the community as well this week. We know we talked about a lot of bad news on the injury front. We wanted to end with something positive and happy. We wanted to start with Emeka's news, and we were going to end with some community news. So this last week, the Buccaneers celebrated their extended partnership with Hillsborough County Public Schools with a pep rally at Lockhart Elementary Magnet School. The entire Buccaneers rookie class, alongside Bucs cheerleaders and Captain Fear, got to do flag football drills, played games with the kids, celebrating the 50th season. And this extended partnership, the Glazer family and the Buccaneers have committed an additional $700,000 to their school programming. It's incredible, and especially highlighted by, you can see they're underneath the shade structure right there at recess. I mean, what a huge deal in Florida for these kids to have a shaded place to get all that energy out that you could see they have. Pole pads and shade structures at every single Hillsborough County elementary school, which is a lot of elementary schools.
That looked like a lot of players.
The whole rookie class.
Oh, wow.
It was incredible. And so the event also had the free vision clinic through the Glazer Vision Foundation's mobile vision clinic, which has already delivered more than 200,000 free eye screenings and more than 20,000 free pairs of prescription glasses to kids who need it.
That Glazer Vision bus is amazing.
It's incredible.
Because they bring it to you. You know, the kids don't have to, the parents don't have to find a way to get a kid to the eye doctor to get tested. They test them right there on that bus, and then they make them the glasses with the prescriptions that they get.
Right there, yeah. It was incredible. The rookies did an amazing job. Tez Johnson led a lot of the games. Emeka led a lot of the stuff. It was a blast to watch. the kids were loving having them there, loving having cheer and fear as well. So shout out to the rookies, shout out to just the Bucs always doing great things in the community, win or lose, no matter what's going on, and I always really appreciate that. So that's going to do it for us on this edition of Buccaneers Insider. We'll see you next time.